I'm Madison, 30 years old, and the founder of SecureLink Technologies. Growing up, I was always second best to my sister Lily. No matter what I achieved, Lily was their golden child. Last year, I received a letter from my mom's attorney. We're leaving it all to Lily. I wasn't even invited to the will reading. I built my company from nothing while my family gave everything to Lily. Then they showed up at my office demanding their share of my success. What my lawyer said shut them down forever. Before I dive into this painful story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If family betrayal has touched your life too, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories of overcoming life's unfair challenges. Now, let's get into how my family's favoritism turned into a legal battle I never expected. My earliest memories are tinted with the knowledge that in my family, Lily came first. 3 years older than me, she was the firstborn, the one with our mother's eyes and our father's artistic talent. I was, well, just Madison, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who learned early on that to be noticed, I had to excel. Our home in the Boston suburbs was comfortable, a 4-bedroom colonial with a big backyard where Dad would occasionally barbecue on Sundays. Mom, Eleanor, ran the household with military precision. Dad, Richard, was mostly a background figure, agreeing with whatever Mom decided. They weren't bad parents, just selective with their affection. My 10th birthday crystallized everything. Mom had promised a small party, with a few friends from school. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. The morning of my birthday, I came downstairs to find my parents huddled excitedly around Lily. She'd been selected for a regional dance competition. "Madison, isn't that wonderful news? Your sister might go to nationals," Mom exclaimed, barely glancing my way. "But what about my party?" I asked, clutching the banister. Dad finally looked up. "Oh, right. Happy birthday, kiddo. We'll have to reschedule. Lily needs to practice all weekend for the competition." I didn't get a party that year. Instead, I got a hastily purchased gift card and a cake from the grocery store that we ate quickly before Lily's extended practice session. Mom didn't even light the candles. This pattern continued throughout my childhood. When I brought home stray days, Mom would nod and say, "That's what we expect from you, Madison." When Lily brought home C's and B's, there would be celebrations for her improvement and hard work. In 7th grade, I won the district science fair with a project on renewable energy. My presentation was scheduled for 4 p.m. Neither of my parents showed up. Later that night, I found out they'd gone to Lily's dance recital instead. When I confronted them, holding my blue ribbon, Mom sighed. "Madison, you know these things come easily to you. Lily needs our support more. She gets nervous before performances." That night, I taped my ribbon to my bedroom wall and made a private vow. I would succeed not because of my family, but despite them. I would build something they couldn't ignore. High school brought more of the same. I joined every academic club I could find, partly out of genuine interest, but partly to fill my time while my parents attended Lily's endless activities. I became self-sufficient by necessity. I learned to cook because sometimes my parents would forget dinner when they were focused on Lily's latest drama. I learned to drive early, so I could take myself to academic competitions. I got a part-time job at 16, so I'd have money for SAT prep books and college application fees. Meanwhile, Lily floated through high school on her charm and our parents' endless support. When she didn't make the cut for the dance team senior year, Mom and Dad bought her a car to cheer her up. When I was accepted to 3 Ivy League schools with scholarship offers, they nodded and said, "Well, you always were the studious one." Graduation day should have been triumphant. I was valedictorian, with a full ride to Cornell. As I stood at the podium delivering my speech about perseverance and looking to the future, I spotted my parents in the audience. They were only half listening, helping Lily fix her cap, which kept sliding off her elaborately styled hair. At the small family celebration afterward, Mom and Dad presented Lily with a surprise graduation gift, a 3-week trip to Europe to broaden her horizons before college. My gift was a modest watch. Practical. Sensible. Just like me. "You don't need extravagant things, Madison," Mom explained when she saw my face fall momentarily. You're going to Cornell on scholarship. Lily needs this experience to find herself. That night, as I carefully packed for college, meticulously planning how to stretch my scholarship and savings, I heard my parents in the next room with Lily, excitedly planning her European itinerary. It was the soundtrack of my childhood, Lily's needs, Lily's wants, Lily's dreams taking center stage while mine were background noise. I didn't know it then, but this was just the beginning. The gap between how my parents treated Lily and me would only widen as we entered adulthood, and the consequences would eventually shake our family to its core. Cornell was freedom. For the first time, I wasn't Lily's little sister or the smart one in the family. I was just Madison, freshman computer science major with a minor in business. My roommate Kayla didn't know anything about my family dynamics, and it was refreshing to form a friendship without that shadow hanging over me. While my scholarship covered tuition, I still needed money for books, supplies, and basic living expenses. I worked 20 hours a week at the campus library and another 10 at a local coffee shop on weekends. Meanwhile, Lily had enrolled at Boston University, just 30 minutes from our parents' house. They paid her full tuition, housing, and gave her a monthly allowance. Your sister isn't as academically gifted as you, Mom explained during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. She needs to focus on her studies without the distraction of a job. I bit back the obvious response, that maybe I wanted to focus on my studies too. Instead, I threw myself into work and school with equal intensity. In my sophomore year, I took an entrepreneurship class that changed everything. Our assignment was to develop a business idea and create a prototype. I had always been concerned about online security, especially after watching Kayla deal with identity theft. I developed a concept for a secure digital identity verification system, combining blockchain technology with biometric authentication. My professor, Dr. Rivera, pulled me aside after my presentation. This isn't just a class project, Madison. This could be a viable business. His words planted a seed that would eventually grow into SecureLink Technologies.
But that was still years away.
Thanksgiving break during junior year marked the beginning of the real estrangement from my family. I hadn't been home in months, trying to save money by staying on campus during shorter breaks. When I finally walked through the door, carrying a duffel bag and a stack of textbooks, my parents barely registered my arrival. "Madison, you're finally here," Mom said, quickly returning to stirring cranberry sauce. "Lily's been home since Tuesday. She's upstairs resting. She's been so stressed about her photography exhibit." Dinner was a showcase of Lily's latest accomplishments. Her photographs were being displayed in a student gallery. She had met a potential mentor in the art world. She was considering studying abroad in Paris. I sat quietly, answering brief questions about how school was going before the conversation inevitably swung back to Lily. After dinner, while helping with dishes, I overheard my parents in the study. "We should tell Madison about the change in plans," Dad said, his voice hesitant. "Why upset her? She's fine with her scholarship. Lily needs the rest of the college fund for the study abroad program. Madison's always been self-sufficient." I stood frozen, dish towel in hand. The college fund had been set up for both of us. I'd used only a portion for expenses not covered by my scholarship. The rest, I had assumed, was still there, maybe to help with graduate school or as a small nest egg to start my adult life. I entered the study without knocking. "You're giving Lily my portion of the college fund?" Mom at least had the decency to look momentarily embarrassed before her expression hardened. "Madison, don't eavesdrop. It's unbecoming." "Answer the question, Mom." Dad stepped in, always the peacemaker. "Your sister needs more support right now. Her program in Paris is an amazing opportunity." "And what about my opportunities?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Oh, Madison," Mom sighed, using the tone she always employed when she thought I was being difficult. "You know you've always been the capable one. You have your scholarship. You have your jobs. Lily needs this boost to find her path." "I'm capable because I had to be," I said quietly. "I've been taking care of myself since I was a child because you were always too busy with Lily." Mom's face flushed. "That's not fair. We've always provided for you." Providing isn't the same as supporting, I replied. Have you ever once put me first? Just once. The silence that followed was answer enough. I returned to Cornell the next day, cutting my break short. In the months that followed, I threw myself into my studies and my growing business idea. I applied for a small grant from the university's entrepreneurship center and used it to develop a rudimentary prototype of my security system. Communication with my parents dwindled to obligatory holiday calls and the occasional email. At graduation, I stood among thousands of fellow Cornell graduates in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd. My parents had said they would try to make it, but Lily has final exams that week. They didn't show, but Kayla was there and Dr. Rivera and a few other professors who had become mentors. As I moved the tassel from right to left, I realized I had built a support system of my own. After the ceremony, as we took pictures and celebrated, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Congratulations. Sorry we couldn't make it. Lily says congrats too. I stared at the message for a long moment before pocketing my phone without replying. That evening, at a small dinner with friends, I made a toast to building our own futures. I didn't know then how prophetic those words would be. 2 weeks later, I made one last attempt at bridging the gap with my family. I visited home, bringing a bottle of wine and a peace offering in my heart. But dinner quickly devolved into another Lily showcase. She had graduated with a mediocre GPA, but had made such wonderful connections in the art world. My parents had helped her secure an apartment in New York, where she planned to break into photography with their financial support. When I mentioned my plans to stay in Ithaca and develop my business idea, Mom's dismissive wave spoke volumes.
A that startup.
Madison, those are such a long shot. Why not get a stable job with a good company? IBM has offices near here. I believe in my idea, I said firmly. Well, when that doesn't work out, you can always come home, Mom replied, patting my hand condescendingly. I left the next morning. As I backed out of the driveway, I glanced in my rearview mirror. Mom and Dad stood on the porch, already turning to go inside, already forgetting I had been there at all. I didn't know it then, but it would be the last time I saw our family home while my mother was alive. The first 2 years after graduation were a study in contrast. While Lily floated between creative pursuits in New York, all funded by our parents, I was grinding away in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in Ithaca, eating ramen and working 80-hour weeks. I took a job as a software developer at a local firm to pay the bills while working on SecureLink in every spare moment. My apartment became command central. Whiteboards covered in code snippets, business models sketched on yellow legal pads, and empty coffee cups everywhere. The breakthrough came when I reconnected with Dr. Rivera, who introduced me to Rachel Morgan, a venture capitalist specializing in cybersecurity startups. Rachel saw potential in my idea but was brutally honest about its shortcomings. Your authentication protocol is innovative, Madison, but your business model needs work, she said during our first meeting. Come back when you've figured out how to monetize this. I spent 3 weeks revamping everything, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. When I presented the new plan to Rachel, she nodded slowly. Now we're talking. I can get you seed funding. With Rachel's backing, SecureLink Technologies was officially born. I quit my day job and hired my first 2 employees. We worked out of a converted warehouse space that smelled perpetually of the Chinese restaurant next door. But we were making progress. During this time, communication with my family became increasingly sporadic. I called on holidays and birthdays. Sometimes they remembered to call on mine. Our conversations followed a predictable pattern. Brief questions about my computer thing, followed by extended updates on Lily's latest adventures. Lily's photography career wasn't taking off as expected, so she had pivoted to graphic design, then to interior decorating, then to fashion blogging. Each new passion came with startup costs that my parents readily provided. Your sister is finding herself, Mom explained during one call. These experiences are all part of her journey. I bit my tongue, wondering if my journey had ever mattered to them half as much. 3 years after graduation, SecureLink landed our first major client, a regional bank looking to upgrade their security protocols. Suddenly, we were legitimate. I moved the company to a real office, hired more staff, and finally started paying myself a reasonable salary. I called my parents to share the news, genuinely excited to tell them about this milestone. "That's nice, dear," Mom said, clearly distracted. "Did you get the pictures Lily sent? She's dating a gallery owner now. He might feature her work in the spring." The pattern continued as SecureLink grew. Each success in my life was acknowledged with polite disinterest before the conversation turned to Lily. Meanwhile, each of Lily's minor achievements or life changes was celebrated as if she had cured cancer. When SecureLink was featured in a technology magazine, I sent my parents a copy. Dad called, sounding genuinely impressed. "This is really something, Madison. I didn't realize your company was doing so well." For a moment, I felt that long-absent parental pride I'd craved. Then he continued, "You know, Lily's having a hard time with her rent in New York. Since you're doing so well now, maybe you could help her out?" The request stunned me. "Dad, I'm reinvesting most of our profits back into the company. We're still a startup. But family helps family, Madison. You've always been the responsible one." There was again my responsibility being used against me. I declined as gently as I could, suggesting that perhaps Lily could get a steady job to supplement her artistic pursuits. The temperature of the call dropped instantly. "Your sister is an artist. She needs freedom to create," Dad said stiffly. "I thought you'd be more understanding, now that you've had some success." The call ended awkwardly, and afterward, communication became even more strained. I was building a life they couldn't relate to, and they were continuing patterns I couldn't respect. Thankfully, I wasn't alone. Kayla had moved to Ithaca after completing her master's degree and became SecureLink's marketing director. I had my team at work, growing from 5 people to 15 as we secured more clients. And I had Eric, whom I met at a cybersecurity conference in Chicago. He was brilliant, kind, and understood ambition without becoming consumed by it. When he proposed a year later, I said yes, without hesitation. I called my parents to share the news about my engagement. Mom seemed genuinely happy for me, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of hope for reconciliation. "That's wonderful news, Madison. We should start planning. June weddings are lovely. We're thinking fall, actually. Eric loves the autumn colors." "Oh, but June is traditional, and Lily could be your maid of honor. She'll be back from her Bali retreat by then." And just like that, my wedding was becoming about Lily. I changed the subject and ended the call soon after. Then, 8 months before the wedding, Mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer, already stage 4 when diagnosed. Dad called with the news, his voice hollow with shock. "She's asking for both of you girls," he said. I flew home the next day. The house looked exactly the same, but everything felt different. Mom was thin and pale, a shadow of her formidable self. Lily was already there, installed in her old bedroom, playing the role of devoted daughter. I really did. I stayed for 3 days, helping with meals, researching treatment options, sitting quietly with Mom when she felt up to company. But there was a wall between us that even impending loss couldn't breach. On the 3rd night, I overheard Lily and Mom talking in the bedroom. "I don't know what I'd do without you, sweetie," Mom said, her voice weak. "Madison tries, but she's always been so distant." "She's busy with her company," Lily replied. "You know how she is. Always was more interested in computers than people." I stood in the hallway, invisible as always. The next morning, I told Dad I needed to get back to work, but would return soon. Mom was asleep, so I left without saying goodbye. I called regularly after that, sent care packages, and offered to pay for home health aid. Dad refused the money. "We're managing fine," he said stiffly. What I didn't know then was that managing meant Lily had moved back home, ostensibly to help care for Mom, while my parents continued to support her financially. I didn't know that Mom's condition was deteriorating faster than Dad let on. I didn't know that our last conversation had already happened. 2 months later, I called and Dad answered, sounding exhausted. "She's not really talking anymore, Madison. The doctors say it's a matter of days." "I'll come right away," I said, already opening my laptop to book a flight. "Actually, Lily thinks it would be better if you waited. Your mother gets agitated with too many people around. Maybe next weekend. I froze. Dad, if she only has days. Lily knows what's best right now. She's been here the whole time. The implication was clear. Lily had earned her place at our mother's deathbed. I had not. I never got that next weekend. Mom passed away 3 days later. I found out from an email from my aunt, not even from my father or sister. That was just the beginning of being excluded from my own mother's death. I didn't know it yet, but the worst betrayal was still to come. I learned of Mom's passing on a Tuesday morning when an email from Aunt Susan appeared in my inbox with the subject line Eleanor. No one had called me. Not Dad. Not Lily. Just a brief, awkward email from my mother's sister. Madison, I'm sorry to inform you this way, but Eleanor passed last night. Your father asked me to let you know. Services will be Friday at First Presbyterian. 3 lines. That's what 30 years as a daughter earned me. I called Dad immediately. No answer. I called Lily. Straight to voicemail. I booked a flight anyway and arrived at my childhood home Thursday evening. Rental car in the driveway. Dad answered the door looking haggard, gray stubble on his normally clean-shaven face. Madison, you're here. Not I'm glad you came, or we missed you. Just acknowledgement of my physical presence. Of course I'm here. Mom died, Dad. My voice cracked on the last word. He stepped aside to let me in. The house smelled of casseroles and flowers. The universal scent of American morning. In the living room, Lily sat surrounded by aunts and family friends, accepting condolences like the lady of the house. When she saw me, she stood and gave me a brief, perfunctory hug. You made it, she said, with the same flat acknowledgement as Dad. The next 24 hours were surreal. I moved through the house like a ghost, helping with funeral arrangements that had mostly been decided without me. When I asked Dad about the obituary, he looked surprised. It's already submitted. Lily took care of it. I found a copy on the kitchen counter. I was mentioned in the last line. Eleanor is survived by her husband Richard, her daughter Lily, and her daughter Madison. No mention of my company, my engagement to Eric, nothing. Lily's accomplishments, however meager, were listed in detail. The funeral was worse. I sat in the front row with Dad and Lily, feeling like an imposter. Person after person approached to offer condolences, many seeming surprised to see me. Oh, you must be the other daughter, one of Mom's bridge club friends said. Eleanor always talked so much about Lily. I forgot she had too. I smiled politely, dying inside. After the service, everyone gathered at the house. I overheard snippets of conversation about the will reading and the attorney's office yesterday.
Wait.
Yesterday? I cornered Dad in the kitchen. There was a will reading? When? He had the grace to look embarrassed. Just a formality, Madison. Nothing you needed to be present for. I'm her daughter, Dad. Of course I needed to be there. Well, it's done now. He turned away, effectively ending the conversation. I stayed one more night, sleeping in my childhood bedroom that now served as a storage room for Lily's excess belongings. The next morning, I booked an earlier flight back to Ithaca. As I was leaving, Dad pressed an envelope into my hand. From the attorney, he said. Your copy. I waited until I was on the plane to open it. Inside was a formal letter and a copy of Mom's will. I scanned the legalese until I reached the key paragraph. I, Eleanor Margaret Winters, being of sound mind, hereby bequeath all my worldly possessions, including but not limited to my share of the family home, financial accounts, personal effects, and investments, to my daughter, Lily Ann Winters. The letter continued, explaining that this decision was made with full awareness and consideration. At the bottom was a handwritten note in what appeared to be Mom's shaky script. Madison has always been the strong one. Lily needs this support more. Even in death, Mom had maintained the pattern of our entire lives. I read through the rest of the documents. My parents had been more well off than I'd realized. The house was worth nearly $1.2 million in the current market. There were investment accounts totaling another $800,000. Mom's personal items included jewelry from my grandmother that had always been promised to be shared between Lily and me. All of it, every dollar, every heirloom, every memory, had been left to Lily. I wasn't written out completely. There was a small acknowledgement. To my daughter Madison, I leave my blessing and confidence in her continued success without need of financial support. I sat back against the airplane seat, the papers trembling in my hands. This wasn't just being overlooked or sidelined. This was a deliberate, final statement. Lily matters more. Always has, always will. When I landed in Ithaca, Eric was waiting. One look at my face told him everything. He held me as I finally broke down, sobbing in the airport terminal like a lost child. In the months that followed, I threw myself into work with renewed intensity. SecureLink was growing rapidly, and I channeled all my grief and anger into making it succeed. I didn't contest the will. I didn't call Dad or Lily. I simply detached. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Lily had moved permanently into the family home with Dad. She had quit her latest venture, something about handcrafted jewelry, and was finding herself again at 36. I married Eric in a small ceremony in the Finger Lakes, surrounded by friends and colleagues who had become my chosen family. Dad and Lily were invited. They sent a blender with a card signed by both of them, but neither attended. Life moved on. SecureLink expanded to new markets. Eric and I bought a beautiful home overlooking Cayuga Lake. I made peace with the fact that the family I was born into would never be the family I needed. And for a while, that was enough. Then, 18 months after Mom's death, everything changed again. SecureLink developed a revolutionary new security protocol that caught the attention of major tech companies. We were featured in Forbes. Our valuation skyrocketed. Suddenly, I wasn't just successful, I was newsworthy. And just as suddenly, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in over a year. My father was calling. "Madison," he said, his voice warm in a way it hadn't been in years. "We need to talk." My father's call came on a Tuesday afternoon, interrupting a strategy meeting about SecureLink's expansion into European markets. Seeing his number on my phone sent a jolt through me, a mixture of hope and wariness that had become my standard emotional response to family. "Dad, is everything okay?" I stepped out of the conference room, signaling to my team to continue without me. "Everything's fine, Madison. Better than fine." His voice had an unusual animation to it. "We saw the Forbes article. Your company, it's really something." "Thank you," I said cautiously. After a year and a half of near silence, his sudden interest in my success felt suspicious. "Lily and I were thinking it might be nice to reconnect. Maybe we could come visit you? See your company, your new house? Lily's been saying she misses her little sister." The statement was so divorced from reality that I almost laughed. Lily hadn't reached out once since Mom's funeral. That would be unexpected, I said carefully. "Families should stick together, Madison. Your mother would have wanted that." The invocation of Mom sent a familiar pang through me. "When were you thinking of visiting? How about this weekend? We could drive up Friday." The suddenness of the request was jarring, but part of me, the part that had always craved my family's approval, couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Maybe they were finally seeing me. Maybe this could be a new beginning. "Okay," I said. "Friday works." After hanging up, I returned to my meeting, but my mind was elsewhere. That evening, I told Eric about the call. "That's interesting timing," he said, his tone neutral but his expression skeptical. "You think they're only reaching out because of the Forbes piece?" It wasn't a question. Eric chose his words carefully. "I think your family has a pattern of behavior. I'm just saying, keep your expectations realistic." I knew he was right, but that small, stubborn part of me, the part that had never stopped wanting my parents to see me, wanted to believe this could be different. Friday arrived, and with it my father and Lily. They pulled into our circular driveway in Dad's aging Volvo, looking out of place against the backdrop of our modern lakefront home. "Madison," Lily exclaimed, embracing me with the enthusiasm of a long-lost friend rather than a sister who had been complicit in my exclusion. Your house is gorgeous. Dad hugged me too, patting my back awkwardly. You've done well for yourself, kiddo. I gave them a tour of the house, watching as their eyes widened at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake, the professional kitchen where Eric loved to cook, the home office with multiple monitors where I sometimes worked remotely. This must have cost a fortune, Lily said, running her hand along the marble countertop in the kitchen. We've been fortunate, I said simply. Dad cleared his throat. Your company's SecureLink. It must be worth millions now. And there it was, the real reason for their sudden interest. We're privately held, so our exact valuation isn't public, I answered, deliberately vague. But yes, we've been successful. The first evening was a strange dance of superficial conversation. They asked about the company, about Eric, who was carefully polite but reserved, about our life in Ithaca. Asked about the house, about Dad's retirement, about their lives in Boston. We avoided all the substantial topics, Mom's death, the will, the year and a half of silence. It was during Saturday brunch that the facade finally cracked. We were seated on the deck, enjoying the warm spring air and the view of the lake, when Lily set down her mimosa with deliberate care. So, Madison, we've been thinking, she began, exchanging a glance with Dad. About your company. I felt Eric's hand come to rest on my knee under the table, a silent signal of support. What about my company? I kept my voice neutral. Well, Dad interjected, it's really quite remarkable what you've built. And we were thinking it's really a family accomplishment in many ways. I blinked. A family accomplishment. Your mother and I put you through that fancy school, Dad continued. And all those computers we bought you growing up. That foundation is what allowed you to create SecureLink. I stared at him, momentarily speechless. The fancy school had been Cornell, where I'd gone on scholarship. The computers had been a second-hand desktop when I was 14 and a basic laptop for college, the bare minimum for a computer science student. And I always encouraged your tech interests, Lily added with breathtaking revisionism. Remember how I used to let you fix my phone when it had problems? The conversation was veering into the surreal. What exactly are you saying? I asked, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. Dad leaned forward. We're saying that your success has roots in this family, and families should share in each other's good fortune. Share, I repeated. You mean financially? Well, yes, Lily said, as if it were obvious. I mean, you're worth millions now. And meanwhile, the housing market has tanked. The family home has lost value, and my jewelry business hasn't really taken off yet. Your jewelry business, I said flatly. The one you started 3 months ago, according to your Instagram? She waved a dismissive hand. The point is, we're family. And you owe your family a share of your success. I owe you. The words hung in the air between us. It's only fair, Dad added. After all, your mother left everything to Lily because we thought you didn't need it. But now that you've done so well, it seems right to balance things out. The audacity was breathtaking. After a lifetime of favoritism, after being excluded from my own mother's death and will, they now wanted to claim a share of the company I'd built through years of hard work I'd done largely without their support or interest. Let me make sure I understand, I said slowly. Mom left everything to Lily, the house, the investments, the family heirlooms. Everything. And now that my company is successful, you think I owe you both a share of it? Exactly, Lily nodded, apparently missing the incredulity in my tone. A family share. We were thinking maybe 20%? That seems fair. 20% of SecureLink, I repeated. A company you've shown zero interest in until you saw it in Forbes. Dad frowned. There's no need to be difficult, Madison. We're just talking about what's fair. Fair. The word ignited something in me. Was it fair when Mom missed my science fair for Lily's dance recital? Was it fair when you gave Lily a car for failing to make the dance team while my scholarships got a nod? Was it fair when you excluded me from Mom's final days, from her funeral planning, from her will reading? That's ancient history, Lily said dismissively. And Mom was sick. She wasn't thinking clearly. So the will wasn't valid? I asked pointedly. Dad shifted uncomfortably. That's not what we're saying. The will was legal. We're just talking about moral obligations here. Eric, who had been silently observing this exchange, finally spoke up. I think what Madison is trying to understand is why you believe you're entitled to a share of a company you had no part in building. This doesn't concern you, Lily snapped at him. He's my husband. It absolutely concerns him, I countered. And he's right. On what possible basis do you think you deserve 20% of SecureLink? Dad's expression hardened. We're your family, Madison. That's the basis. Family, I echoed. You know, it's funny how I only seem to be family when you want something from me. Lily's face flushed with anger. That is so unfair. We've always been there for you. The blatant rewriting of history was too much. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the deck. I think this visit is over, I said quietly. I'll call you both a cab to the train station. Don't be dramatic, Madison, Dad said, his tone condescending. Sit down. We can discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss. You're not getting a share of my company. Not 20%, not 2%, not a single share. Lily's expression turned ugly. We didn't want to do this, but you leave us no choice. The security algorithm, your big breakthrough? It's based on Dad's old encryption hobby. We have his notebooks to prove it. I stared at her in disbelief. Dad had indeed had a casual interest in basic encryption when I was a teenager, solving simple puzzles in recreational mathematics magazines. The idea that SecureLink's advanced blockchain-based security protocol had anything to do with those elementary exercises was laughable. And, Lily continued, you developed the initial concept while living in our family home during breaks from college. Technically, that makes it intellectual property developed using family resources. I realized then that this wasn't a spontaneous grab for money. They had planned this, had come prepared with arguments, however tenuous. We've consulted an attorney, Dad said, confirming my suspicion. If we need to, we're prepared to take legal action to secure what's rightfully the family's share. The threat hung in the air. My own father and sister were threatening to sue me over a company they had nothing to do with, had never shown interest in until it was worth millions. Get out of my house, I said, my voice deadly calm.
Now.
They left, but not before Lily delivered a parting shot. Family helps family, Madison. Mom would be so disappointed in you. As their cab disappeared down the driveway, I turned to Eric, still shaking with anger and disbelief. They're actually going to sue me, I said. My own family. Eric put his arm around me. Then we'll get the best attorney we can find and we'll fight them. 3 days later, the formal legal notice arrived. My family wasn't just threatening a lawsuit, they were actually going through with it. The battle lines were drawn, and there would be no going back. The lawsuit was as baseless as it was painful. Richard and Lily Winters versus Madison Winters and SecureLink Technologies, claiming familial intellectual property rights and unjust enrichment. Their attorney, Desmond Porter, had a reputation for taking high-risk cases on contingency. In other words, he'd only get paid if he won. The complaint alleged that my father's pioneering work in encryption had directly informed SecureLink's core technology, and that my use of family resources during college constituted a business incubation environment for which my family deserved compensation. It was absurd, but I wasn't laughing. They can't possibly win this, Eric said as we reviewed the documents. There's no legal precedent for familial intellectual property rights. That's not even a real thing. It's not about winning, I realized. It's about pressuring me into a settlement. They think I'll pay them off to avoid a public fight. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, I called Catherine Ward, one of the top intellectual property attorneys in the Northeast. Her retainer fee was eye-watering, but her first words after reviewing the case gave me confidence. This is what we call a nuisance suit, Ms. Winters. Legally meritless, but designed to create enough hassle that you'll settle. I specialize in making such nuisances go away. The legal process ground forward. Depositions were scheduled. Discovery requests flew back and forth. The lawsuit became a dark cloud over what should have been SecureLink's brightest period. Catherine's investigation uncovered truths more painful than I'd imagined. Through financial disclosures, we learned that Lily had squandered much of her inheritance in less than 2 years. The house had a second mortgage. The investment accounts were nearly empty. "They're desperate," Catherine explained during a strategy session in her office. "Your sister has never held a job for more than 6 months. Your father's pension isn't enough to maintain their lifestyle. They saw your success as a lottery ticket." But the most devastating discovery came from my father's emails, obtained through discovery. They had been planning this before Mom even died. "When Madison's company takes off, we'll need to assert our family claim," my father had written to Lily 3 weeks before Mom's passing. "Your mother agrees that you deserve a share of anything Madison creates, given how we've always prioritized your needs." They had been plotting to stake a claim on my success while Mom was dying, while I was being kept from her bedside. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd thought possible. The deposition process was excruciating. I had to sit across a table from my father and sister while they testified under oath about their supposed contributions to my company. "Madison developed her encryption ideas at our kitchen table," Dad claimed. "I guided her thinking, shared my expertise." His expertise consisted of subscription to popular science and solving newspaper logic puzzles. Lily's deposition was even more fantastical. "I was Madison's first beta tester. I gave crucial feedback on user experience." This from a sister who had once asked me if the cloud meant her photos were actually stored in the sky. Through it all, I maintained my composure, watching as they twisted reality to serve their narrative. Catherine methodically dismantled their claims, point by point, her calm precision a contrast to their increasingly desperate assertions. "Ms. Winters," Catherine addressed Lily during her deposition, "can you explain the basic principles behind SecureLink's blockchain authentication protocol?" Lily stammered through a word salad of technical terms she clearly didn't understand. "And when exactly did you provide this crucial feedback you've described?" "Throughout college and after. We talked about it all the time." "Really?" "Because according to phone records and emails, you and your sister have communicated approximately 7 times in the 5 years prior to this lawsuit, none of which contained any discussion of SecureLink's technology." The case was crumbling, but my family seemed unable to see it. Each failed argument was replaced with another, equally baseless. When technical claims failed, they pivoted to emotional appeals. When those didn't work, they tried to claim that SecureLink was partially developed using a computer they had bought me in high school. 6 months into the legal battle, with trial still months away, Catherine suggested a settlement conference. "Not because they have a case," she assured me, "but because ending this now saves everyone time and money. Primarily your money, since they're on a contingency arrangement." I agreed, not out of fear, but exhaustion. The lawsuit was a constant drain on my energy and focus when I needed to be leading my company. The settlement conference was set for a Wednesday morning at Catherine's firm. I arrived early, steeling myself for another confrontation. Eric came with me, solid and supportive as always. My father and sister arrived with their attorney, both looking haggard from the stress of the lawsuit. Lily avoided my eyes. Dad looked older than his years. We gathered in a conference room, the attorneys on either side of the long table, our families facing each other across the polished wood. Porter opened with a rehearsed speech about family obligations and shared success, presenting a demand for a 15% stake in SecureLink, down from their original 20%, as if this represented a generous compromise. Catherine let him finish before responding with a single sheet of paper, which she slid across the table. "This is our counteroffer," she said calmly. Porter scanned the document, his expression shifting from confidence to confusion. "This is nothing. You're offering nothing?" "Correct," Catherine replied. "We're offering to drop our countersuit for legal fees if your clients dismiss their frivolous claim with prejudice, meaning they can never refile it." "This is ridiculous," Porter sputtered. "We have a legitimate claim here." "No, you don't." Catherine's voice remained measured but took on a steely edge. "What you have is a family trying to extort a successful entrepreneur because they squandered their own resources." "How dare you?" Lily began, but Catherine cut her off with a raised hand. Ms. Winters, we have documented evidence that you and your father planned this lawsuit before your mother's death. We have financial records showing you've depleted nearly all your inheritance. We have expert testimony establishing that SecureLink's technology bears no relationship to your father's recreational interest in basic encryption. Your claim isn't just legally baseless, it's a confession to inheritance fraud. The room went silent. Dad's face had gone pale. Inheritance fraud? He finally asked. Catherine nodded. The emails discussing how you and Lily intentionally kept Madison from her mother's deathbed and will reading, combined with your statements about planning to claim a share of her company regardless of the will's contents, could be construed as intentional interference with inheritance. That's a civil cause of action in New York State, sometimes even a criminal matter. I watched as the reality of their situation slowly dawned on my father and sister. They hadn't just filed a nuisance lawsuit, they had potentially exposed themselves to serious legal consequences. We never meant. Dad began, then faltered. I think we need a moment with our clients, Porter said, his confident demeanor completely evaporated. They stepped out of the conference room, leaving Eric, Catherine, and me alone. Will they really face inheritance fraud charges? I asked quietly. Catherine's expression softened slightly. It's possible, though difficult to prove. But they don't know that. When they returned 20 minutes later, the atmosphere had changed completely. Porter looked defeated, Dad looked ashamed, and Lily was visibly fighting back tears. We're prepared to dismiss the lawsuit, Porter announced. With prejudice, as requested. And, Catherine prompted.
Porter siged.
And my clients will sign an agreement never to make any future claims against Madison Winters or SecureLink Technologies. Good, Catherine said. I'll have the paperwork drawn up immediately. As Porter reviewed the documents with Catherine, I found myself facing my father and sister directly for the first time that day. Why? I asked simply. Why would you do this? Dad couldn't meet my eyes. We needed the money. After your mother died, things got complicated. You could have asked for help, I said. Not demanded it, not sued for it. Just asked. Would you have given it? Lily challenged, a hint of her earlier defiance returning. I considered the question honestly. I don't know, but this guaranteed I never will. The paperwork was signed. The lawsuit was over. As we prepared to leave, Dad reached out as if to touch my arm, then let his hand fall. Madison, you have to understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. I've always understood. I just didn't want to accept it. I walked out of that conference room feeling both victorious and empty. The legal battle was won, but the war had cost me any illusion that I still had a family to return to. As Eric and I drove home in silence, I realized that the final break had actually been a long time coming. This lawsuit hadn't created the rift in my family, it had merely exposed the one that had always been there. The dismissal of the lawsuit should have felt like an ending, but instead, it felt like standing in the aftermath of a storm, relieved to have survived, yet surrounded by destruction. The legal documents were signed, the threat removed, but the emotional wreckage remained. I threw myself back into work with renewed focus. SecureLink continued to thrive, expanding into international markets and developing new security protocols. On paper, my life was perfect. Successful company, beautiful home, loving husband. Yet beneath the surface, I was still processing the profound betrayal I'd experienced. Have you thought about therapy? Eric asked gently one evening, finding me staring out at the lake, lost in thought. I'm fine, I replied automatically. He sat beside me, taking my hand. You can be successful and not fine at the same time, you know. His words broke something open in me. The next day, I called a therapist who specialized in family trauma.
Dr.
Melissa Bennett became an unexpected cornerstone in my healing process. What you're describing is a lifetime of conditional love, she explained during one session. Your worth in your family was always tied to your utility, what you could provide or achieve. But I was the strong one, I countered. The capable one. Labels like strong and capable can be burdens too, she said. They become expectations that excuse others from supporting you. Everyone needs support, Madison, even the strong ones. Especially the strong ones. Those sessions gave me language for experiences I'd never fully articulated. The favoritism wasn't just unfair, it was emotional neglect. The lawsuit wasn't just greedy, it was a continuation of a lifetime pattern of exploitation. Healing came in unexpected ways. Kayla, my friend since college and now SecureLink's marketing director, became family in all the ways that mattered. Rachel Morgan, my first investor, became a mentor who understood the unique challenges of being a woman in tech. My team at SecureLink rallied around me with loyalty that humbled me. And Eric, steady, compassionate Eric, created a home with me that was safe, a partnership built on mutual respect rather than obligation or competition. 6 months after the lawsuit's dismissal, I made a decision that surprised even me. I established the SecureLink Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting young entrepreneurs from challenging backgrounds. The foundation provided not just seed funding but mentorship, resources, and community, all the things I had lacked. Why focus on difficult family backgrounds specifically? A reporter asked during the foundation's launch event. Because talent isn't confined to happy homes, I answered. Sometimes the most innovative thinking comes from those who've had to navigate difficult relationships. They've already learned to think outside conventional boundaries. The foundation became a way to transform my pain into purpose. For each young person we helped, I felt a small piece of my own past being redeemed. I had no contact with my father or Lily for nearly 2 years after the lawsuit. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday, a letter arrived at my office. The handwriting on the envelope was shaky but familiar, my father's. I almost didn't open it. But that evening, sitting on the deck with Eric, I finally broke the seal. "Dear Madison," it began. "There are no words adequate to express my remorse for what your sister and I tried to do to you. It was wrong, morally, legally, in every way possible." The letter continued for 3 pages. My father explained that he and Lily had separated. She had moved to Colorado to start fresh. He had sold the family home and moved into a small apartment. He was volunteering at a local community center, trying to be useful for once. "I don't expect forgiveness," he wrote toward the end. "I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I recognize the pattern now, how we always took from you and gave to Lily, how we treated your strength as an excuse to withhold love, how we betrayed you even after your mother's death. I am profoundly sorry, Madison. You deserved better parents than we were." I read the letter twice, then handed it to Eric without comment. After he finished, he looked at me questioningly. "I don't know what to do with this," I admitted. "You don't have to do anything right now," he said. "Or ever, if you don't want to." I didn't respond to the letter immediately. I took it to my next session with Dr. Bennett, where we discussed the complex emotions it stirred: hope, skepticism, anger, longing. "Forgiveness doesn't mean restoration of the relationship," she reminded me. "It can simply mean letting go of the anger that binds you to the past." A month later, I sent a brief reply. Not accepting his apology, not rejecting it either. Just acknowledging it and sharing information about the foundation. It was a small opening, nothing more. 2 more months passed before I agreed to meet him for coffee. He looked older, humbler, his confidence replaced by a quiet dignity I hadn't seen before. "Lily's struggling in Colorado," he told me during our awkward conversation. "She wants to move back. Have me support her again." "And will you?" I asked, curious rather than accusatory. He shook his head slowly.
No.
"For her sake as much as mine. She needs to find her own way now." It was a small thing, that no, but it represented a seismic shift in the family dynamic I'd known all my life. Our relationship now is cautious, limited. We meet occasionally for lunch. He asks about SecureLink and actually listens to my answers. He's attended 2 foundation events, standing quietly in the background, watching with what appears to be genuine pride. As for Lily, I received a friend request from her on social media last month. I haven't accepted it yet. Some wounds need more time. The most unexpected development in my healing journey came last spring when I met Zoe Thomas, a 19-year-old applicant to our foundation's entrepreneurship program. Her business idea was brilliant, an app that connected foster youth aging out of the system with resources and community support. But it was her personal story that stopped me cold. "My parents always favor my brother," she explained matter-of-factly during her interview. "Everything was about him. I was just furniture. But I used that invisibility. I built something while no one was watching." I saw myself in her determined eyes, in the way she'd transformed neglect into independence. But I also saw the pain she was trying to hide, the lingering questions about her own worth that no business success could fully answer. "The foundation would be honored to support your venture," I told her. Then, stepping outside my role as evaluator, I added, "And I'd be happy to mentor you personally if you'd like." Zoe has become a regular visitor to our home. Sometimes we discuss business strategies and app development. Other times, we simply talk about the complicated nature of family, of belonging, of building something new from painful experiences. "Do you ever wish you could go back and change things?" she asked me recently. "Make your parents treat you differently?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I finally answered. "I wish they had been better parents, of course. But everything I went through shaped me. It made me resilient. It taught me to value genuine connection over obligation. It showed me that family can be chosen, built, created, not just inherited. And that's the truth I've finally come to accept. Family isn't just about blood or legal ties. It's about who shows up, who sees you clearly, who celebrates your victories, and helps shoulder your defeats. It's about love that doesn't keep a balance sheet. I lost the family I was born into, or perhaps I never truly had them. But I've built something stronger in its place. Relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation, connections forged through choice rather than chance. The lawsuit my family filed against me was the final, desperate attempt of a dysfunctional system to maintain control. In fighting it, I didn't just protect my company, I declared independence from a lifetime of conditional love and unfair expectations. If you're watching this and something in my story resonates with you, please know you're not alone. Family dynamics can be beautiful, but they can also be damaging. Your worth isn't determined by how your family treats you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to break the cycle. What about you? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who couldn't see your worth? Or have you found healing after family betrayal? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this story helped you feel less alone, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be sharing more about building success and finding peace after family difficulties in future videos. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the family you create matters more than the family you're born into.